When the Industrial Revolution began, the world started to transform. The roaring of steam engines replaced the steady rhythm of hand tools. Smokestacks towered over skylines, and innovation thrived in bustling factories. It was much more than a shift in machinery and technology. It was a turning point in human history, reshaping economies, societies, and the fabric of daily life. It came with iconic inventions like the spinning jenny and steam engines, but the revolution's impact extended far beyond technology. Keep watching to look past the gears and smoke of the Industrial Revolution and discover how it forever changed the course of history. Technological advancements. The Industrial Revolution was a period of scientific and technological developments in the 18th and 19th centuries, where many rural agrarian societies, mainly in Europe and North America, transformed into industrialized urban ones. While some time periods are clearly defined by year, the timeline of the Industrial Revolution is looser and less clearly defined. Some inventions were developed as early as the 1700s, and the Industrial Revolution peaked in Britain in the 1830s and 1840s and soon spread to the rest of the world, including the United States. Adding to the confusion is the idea of the First Industrial Revolution and the Second Industrial Revolution. The first is the one that began in Britain in the early 1800s, and the second took place from the late 19th to the early 20th centuries, with advances in the steel, electric, and automobile industries. For many, the Industrial Revolution is synonymous with groundbreaking inventions that revolutionized production and transportation. Among the most iconic inventions was the steam engine, developed and refined by James Watt. While the steam engine existed before James Watt and had a pivotal role in the 18th century, he made it much more efficient. This powerful machine replaced human and animal labor, enabling factories to operate more efficiently and on a larger scale. Steam power spread across British industries, including flour, paper, cotton, iron, distilleries, waterworks, and canals. Steam power fueled factories that manufactured goods, then powered the railroads and steamships to transport the goods. Another key invention was the spinning jenny, which transformed the textile industry. This was remarkable because Britain had a long history of producing textiles like wool, linen, and cotton due to a climate ideal for raising sheep. Before the Industrial Revolution, the British textile business was a true cottage industry, with the work performed in small workshops or homes by individual spinners, weavers, and dyers. The spinning jenny changed that. Created by James Hargreaves, this device allowed workers to spin multiple spools of thread simultaneously. Paired with Richard Arkwright's water frame and later the power loom, textiles became the first mass-produced goods of the industrial era and contributed to Britain's dominance in global trade. Transportation also experienced a major technological overhaul. The advent of railways and steam-powered ships revolutionized the movement of goods and people. The locomotive, spearheaded by George Stephenson's rocket, connected cities like never before, shrinking travel times and fostering economic growth. Canals, improved roads, and eventually steamships expanded trade networks, making the world more interconnected. Changes in labor and industry. One of the most striking shifts during the Industrial Revolution was the move from cottage industries to factories. Historians use the term cottage industry to identify production that involved people producing goods on a small scale in their homes and was not centralized in one location, such as a factory. Many rural families relied on supplemental income from these cottage industries before factories centralized production. Production was decentralized in the pre-industrial era, with families crafting goods in their homes. The introduction of factories brought workers under one roof, creating a centralized and efficient mode of production. However, it did remove supplemental income from agrarian families unwilling to relocate to cities. However, this shift came at a cost. Factory labor was often grueling, with extended hours, low wages, and unsafe conditions. Women and children made up a significant portion of the workforce, and their contributions, though essential, were undervalued and often exploited. Rapid urbanization also brought substantial challenges as cities became overcrowded, and their populations suffered from pollution, inadequate sanitation, and miserable housing conditions, including a lack of safe drinking water. These harsh realities eventually led to the rise of labor unions and social reforms like child labor laws and health regulations, which aimed to improve workers' rights and conditions in Britain and the United States. Despite these challenges, the factory system significantly boosted productivity and output. laying the groundwork for modern industries. It also contributed to the rise of industrial capitalism, a system where business owners reaped immense profits while the working class struggled to make ends meet. Urbanization and the growth of cities. The Industrial Revolution spurred a burst of rapid urbanization as people flocked to cities in search of work. Though many people in Britain had begun moving to the cities from rural areas before the Industrial Revolution, the process accelerated dramatically with the rise in large factories. Small towns transformed into bustling metropolises, factories becoming their lifeblood. Cities like Manchester and Birmingham in Britain became hubs of industrial activity, symbolizing both progress and the challenges of modernization. Roads also saw significant improvements, especially in Britain, and more than 2,000 miles of canals were in use across Britain by 1815, with steam-powered boats carrying goods down the rivers and canals. Urban growth, however, was not without its downsides. Overcrowding, poor sanitation, and inadequate housing plagued industrial cities. Diseases like cholera and typhoid were rampant, highlighting the need for improved public health infrastructure. Over time, governments and philanthropists began investing in urban planning, sanitation systems, and public housing, laying the foundations for modern urban living. Changing social roles and lifestyles. The Industrial Revolution changed how people worked, where they lived, and their lives and roles in society. As women and children entered the workforce, traditional family structures evolved. While this provided financial support for families, it also disrupted conventional domestic roles and exposed workers to exploitative conditions. Education became increasingly important, mainly as industrial jobs demanded basic literacy and numeracy skills. This led to the rise of public education systems, which aimed to equip the next generation with the knowledge needed to thrive in an industrialized world. The middle class emerged as a distinct social group during this era. Comprised of factory owners, merchants, and professionals, it enjoyed newfound wealth and influence. In contrast, the working class faced significant hardships, which led to movements advocating for social justice, labor rights, and political representation. One of the most famous examples of labor movements included the Luddites, an organized band of skilled weavers and textile workers who rioted after textile machinery replaced jobs they had once done by hand. Many of them were trained artisans who had spent years learning their craft, and they acted out in fear that unskilled machine operators were robbing them of their livelihood. They called themselves Luddites after Ned Ludd, a young apprentice rumored to have wrecked a textile apparatus in 1779. It is not confirmed whether he was a historical or legendary figure, but he inspired the name either way. When the economic pressures of the Napoleonic Wars increased pressure on the artisans, a few desperate weavers began breaking into factories and smashing textile machines. This movement began in Nottingham toward the end of 1811 and spread to Yorkshire, Lancashire, Derbyshire, and Leicestershire by the end of the following year. Global trade and colonial impact. The Industrial Revolution also had far-reaching implications for global trade and colonialism, coinciding with an unprecedented boom in overseas trade. By the middle of the 19th century, it is estimated that Britain exported well over half of the world's cotton textiles. In addition to the increase in exports, they needed to improve raw materials and food to fuel both the factories and their workers. Industrialized nations sought raw materials to create their goods and fuel their factories, and markets to sell their goods. This demand drove the expansion of colonial empires, particularly in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. Many believe that the foreign connections of the Industrial Revolution and the ways it obtained its raw materials darken it with an association with imperialism, exploitation, and slavery. Colonies provided essential resources like cotton, rubber, and metals for industrial production. In return, industrialized nations exported manufactured goods to these regions, creating a system of economic dependency. This dynamic significantly shaped global power structures, with industrialized nations dominating trade and politics. While there are many more complexities to this issue, a discussion of the Industrial Revolution would be incomplete without a mention of the effect it had on the colonies and people exploited in the rush of progress and production. Environmental consequences. While the Industrial Revolution brought immense progress that is still felt today, it also had significant environmental consequences. Each phase of industrialization added to the cumulative ecological strain, causing significant increases in deforestation, air and water pollution, and the depletion of natural resources. Coal-powered factories and transportation degraded air quality, while untreated industrial waste polluted rivers and streams. In addition to the direct impact of the factories and advances in transportation, urbanization and increased population created mass amounts of pollution. Not only did cities become more industrialized and make rapid economic progress, but they also created thick smog from coal-fired factories and residential heating. And the rivers, like the Thames, that flowed through the large cities, became dumping grounds for industrial waste. While the Industrial Revolution brought incredible changes, it took place long before meaningful environmental regulations. The focus on productivity and economic growth came at a steep ecological cost. It set in motion a pattern of unchecked resource exploitation and high emissions that we still struggle to reverse. The roots of the modern environmental crisis can be traced back to the Industrial Revolution, which established the system of mass production and fossil fuel dependence that continue to drive global climate change. These environmental issues sparked early conservation movements and debates about sustainable development. Today, the legacy of the Industrial Revolution continues to influence discussions about environmental stewardship and the balance between progress and preservation. However, although the Industrial Revolution was devastating for the rate of climate change, it brought many positive changes for mankind. Long-lasting cultural shifts and legacy. As you've seen, the Industrial Revolution was much more than an economic or technological phenomenon. While that is what it is remembered for, it also inspired cultural and intellectual movements. The Romantic era, for instance, emerged as a reaction to industrialization. It emphasized nature, emotion, and individualism. Writers like William Wordsworth and Mary Shelley grappled with the implications of progress, questioning the cost of humanity's newfound power. One interpretation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is that it reflects the anxiety about industrialization and scientific advancement. The Industrial Revolution also laid the groundwork for modern science and innovation. During this period, advances in engineering, chemistry, and physics paved the way for subsequent breakthroughs, from electricity to the internet. The era's spirit of invention and discovery continues to shape our world, reminding us of the transformative power of human ingenuity. It created millions of jobs in factories, on railways, and in coal mines, allowing people to transition from agrarian lifestyles to industrial employment. Despite the initial harsh working conditions, the Industrial Revolution improved living standards, making goods more affordable, and led to better housing, clothing, and access to consumer products. Additionally, wages increased steadily throughout the 19th century, enhancing the quality of life for the working class. The century also saw significant medical advances. Developments in chemistry and biology led to the discovery of vaccines, improved surgical techniques, and better public health measures. Innovations like the smallpox vaccine and antiseptic procedures contributed to longer life expectancy and reduced mortality rates. The revolution also allowed the mass production of these vaccines, making them accessible to more people. By the end of the Industrial Revolution, working life in rural and urban settings alike was changed forever by the invention of new machines, the spread of factories, and the developments in transportation and communication. Since the Industrial Revolution, people have been more connected than ever before. Consumer goods have been more affordable, and our economy, environment, and job industries have been forever changed. It was a time of incredible growth that changed the course of history, leaving marks that today's people still feel in our everyday lives. Every time we drive a car, see a piece of clothing manufactured in a factory, or see a train or factory, we can be reminded of the Industrial Revolution and how it changed the world as we know it. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about the Industrial Revolution and its many impacts on the world, check out our book, The Industrial Revolution, a captivating guide to a period of major industrialization and the introduction of the spinning jenny, the cotton gin, electricity, and other inventions. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.